Hey y'all, are you ready for another campfire tale? Well, today we're going to talk about a haunted cemetery because I don't know if you realize this or not, but Brienne and I are obsessed with cemeteries. Even when they're not haunted, there's something about them that is just so cool. I don't know if that's the energy or maybe the feeling of permanence or maybe it's the fact that in a cemetery, there's quite literally a lifetime of stories every couple of feet that you walk. I mean, that's pretty intense, right? Fortunately for y'all, though, tonight we've got a haunted burial ground to talk about, so let's get settled on in around this fire here and explore the local lore of the Pilot Knob Cemetery. The Pilot Knob Cemetery is a rural cemetery located off Ford's Ferry Road in Marion, Kentucky, not too far from Paducah. Some of the headstones there date back to the late 19th century, but the most curious plot of them all is a young girl named Mary Evelyn Ford, who died on May 31st, 1916. Her tomb stands out from the rest as it's enclosed in a white wrought iron fence, and the burial isn't in the dirt, but rather her casket is encased in concrete. Why this is the case is of course shrouded in local lore. Some say that when Evelyn was a young girl of only 5 years old, the folks in Marion began to believe that she and her mother were witches. Why they thought this is entirely unknown, but the townspeople were so convinced that they didn't hold a trial for the girl and her mother. Instead, a mob of angry men hunted them down, captured them, and brought them into town to do what folks do with witches: burn them at the stake. The mother desperately cried for help, claiming these allegations were false and begging anyone who would listen to spare her daughter's life. But no one would in fact listen, so the pair were tied up and set on fire. Of course, the mob didn't quite think this all the way through, and upon seeing the child burnt at the stake, recognizing this horrific atrocity that had just taken place, they became scared that the young witch might return to enact revenge. So they took her charred body to the Pilot Knob Cemetery, where they buried her in a steel-lined grave. And rather than just placing her casket in the ground, they poured concrete over it to ensure she couldn't rise. Then finally, an iron fence was erected around the edge, a fence with interconnecting crosses. Over the years, locals have claimed to experience paranormal activity there in that old cemetery. And eerily, the concrete encapsulating that young girl has warped over time, as if someone is pushing on it from the inside out. People who visited the tomb claim that child-sized footprints appear as well, but mysteriously, they vanish as quickly as they appear. The most frightening part of this local legend, though, is that if you get too close to the tomb, a child's hand may burst up from the ground below in an attempt to pull you down into the ground with it, as revenge for what was done over a century before. However, this isn't the only haunting at that old Kentucky burial ground. Some have also claimed that a spirit known as the Watcher wanders the grounds and keeps an eye on Mary Evelyn's grave. Folks who've come into contact with the spirit say that they feel its presence lurking over them, claiming, quote, "You can almost feel the breath on your neck as your hair starts to stand up." Visitors to the cemetery also purport being overwhelmed by fear or anxiety, knowing that they are being watched. Whether this spirit is protecting the town from Mary Evelyn or Mary Evelyn from the town is unknown. But some say that this spirit is the young girl's mother, still enraged by what happened on that fateful day, tormented by the fact that she cannot reach her daughter through that wrought iron fence and thick layer of concrete. This is the story that's been told for decades, in decades. However, like some of our other tales, a few of the facts here may have been a little hyperbolized over time, as Mary Evelyn Ford's death certificate shows that she actually died from a stomach ailment in 1916, and her mother outlived her for another 4 years. So it seems the pair were not actually burned at the stake. But does this mean that the Pilot Knob Cemetery isn't being watched by an anxious spirit or haunted by Mary Evelyn? Only those who visit can answer that. My name is Brandon Schexnayder, and you've been listening to Southern Gothic.